Welcome to another C1 Advanced ESL-lounge reading lesson video. Today we will be reading Linguistic Relativity. Does language shape how we think? Let's begin with some vocabulary. To constrain, to control or limit something. Hypothesis. An idea or explanation that is not yet proven. Discredited. Believed to be not true or reliable. To prime. To prepare someone or something for a situation. Cognitive. Connected with mental processes of understanding. Egocentric. Thinking only about yourself, centered on the self. Cardinal directions. The four main points of the compass: north, south, east, and west. To foster. To encourage the development of something. Inanimate, not alive, without human qualities. Evidentiality. A grammatical system indicating the source of information. Great. Now you know the key words. Let's read the story. The relationship between language and thought is one of the most profound and debated topics in linguistics and psychology. Does the language we speak simply express our thoughts, or does it actively shape and constrain them? This question lies at the heart of the principle of linguistic relativity, most famously associated with the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. The theory proposes that the specific language we learn influences our perception of the world, while the strong version of this hypothesis, that language determines thought, effectively trapping us within its structure, has been largely discredited. The weaker version, which suggests language influences our habitual patterns of thinking, has gained significant experimental support. One of the most compelling areas of research is in the perception of color. The Russian language, for instance, does not have a single word for blue. Instead, it has two distinct basic words for light blue and dark blue. End of page 1. Let's continue. Studies have shown that native Russian speakers are measurably faster at distinguishing between these two shades than English speakers, who do not have such a fundamental linguistic division. This suggests that the presence of the distinct words in their language primes their brains to perceive these colors as separate categories, giving them a slight cognitive advantage in that specific task. The language doesn't prevent them from seeing other colors, but it has shaped their habitual response to this part of the spectrum. This influence extends to more abstract concepts, such as time and space. In English, we often use egocentric coordinates to describe the location of objects. The cup is to my left. The tree is behind me. However, some languages, like those spoken by certain Aboriginal communities in Australia, exclusively use cardinal directions. A speaker of this language would say, "The cup is to the north of me." End of page 2. Let's continue. To speak this language, one must have a constantly active sense of their orientation within the world, a kind of internal compass that most English speakers lack. This linguistic requirement fosters a fundamentally different way of perceiving and navigating physical space. Even grammatical structures such as gendered nouns appear to have a subtle effect. In German, the word for bridge is grammatically feminine, whereas in Spanish, it is masculine. When asked to describe a bridge, German speakers are more likely to use words like elegant or beautiful, while Spanish speakers might choose strong or sturdy. This suggests that the grammatical gender assigned to an inanimate object can subtly influence the qualities and characteristics we associate with it, coloring our perception in ways we are not consciously aware of. End of page 3. Let's continue. The implications of linguistic relativity extend into professional and academic domains as well. Researchers have found that speakers of languages with more precise numerical systems perform better on mathematical tasks, while languages that encode evidentiality, requiring speakers to specify the source of their information, may foster more critical thinking about knowledge claims. These findings suggest that our native language doesn't just reflect our culture's values, but actively reinforces certain cognitive habits. The structure of our language creates invisible frameworks that guide how we process information, make decisions, and understand causality, potentially influencing everything from scientific reasoning to moral judgments. Ultimately, the evidence indicates that language is not a prison for thought, but rather a guide. It doesn't build walls around our minds, but it does carve well-worn paths that our thoughts are more likely to follow. End of page 4. Let's continue. The specific vocabulary and grammatical structures of our native tongue train our attention, highlighting certain aspects of reality while leaving others in the background. Understanding linguistic relativity reveals that our own perception of the world is not the only one. There are as many different ways of seeing and interpreting reality as there are languages to describe it. Okay, time for a few questions to check your understanding. Question 1. What is the primary difference between the strong and weak versions of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis? A. The strong version is more popular today, while the weak version is discredited. B. The strong version proposes that language completely controls cognition, whereas the weak version sees it as a shaping force. C. The strong version relates to vocabulary, while the weak version relates to grammar. D. The strong version applies to ancient languages, while the weak version applies to modern ones. Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is B. The text explains that the strong version posits that language determines thought, while the weak version suggests it influences our habitual patterns of thinking. Question 2. What cognitive advantage do Russian speakers have in color perception, according to the text? A. They can see more colors than English speakers. B. They process certain color variations more rapidly. C. They have a single word for blue that is more precise. D. They are better at remembering the names of different shades. Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is B. The text supports this by stating that Russian speakers are measurably faster at distinguishing between these two shades. Question 3. What linguistic feature forces speakers of some Aboriginal languages to have a kind of internal compass? A. The use of egocentric coordinates to describe location. B. The presence of many different words for left and right. C. Their reliance on a geographic-based system of orientation rather than a self-centered one. D. The lack of any words to describe abstract space. Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is C. The text contrasts the egocentric coordinates used in English with languages that exclusively use cardinal directions, which is a geographic-based system. Question 4. How does grammatical gender appear to affect perception? A. It makes it impossible to describe inanimate objects with human qualities. B. It forces speakers to decide if an object is more like a man or a woman. C. It only influences the perception of objects that are naturally male or female. D. It can lead to the unconscious attribution of gendered qualities to non-living things. Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is D. The text suggests that the grammatical gender assigned to an inanimate object can subtly influence the qualities we associate with it. Question 5. The article mentions languages that encode evidentiality. What might this foster in their speakers? A. An ingrained habit of considering the basis for a piece of information. B. An increased skill in knowing if someone is lying. C. Better mathematical skills. D. A reduced ability to think abstractly. Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is A. The text says these languages require speakers to specify the source of their information, which fosters more critical thinking about knowledge claims. Question 6. What is the author's final conclusion about the relationship between language and thought? A. The influence of language on thought is too weak to be significant. B. Language is simply a tool for expressing thoughts that are universal. C. It makes certain ways of thinking more automatic. D. The language we speak has no real impact on our perception of reality. Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is C. The text concludes that language carves well-worn paths that our thoughts are more likely to follow, making them more automatic. Let's quickly summarize the lesson. On this screen, you can review the main points of the text and the key vocabulary. Finally, here are a few discussion questions. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching this ESL Lounge video. Don't forget to subscribe for more lessons, and we'll see you in the next one.